Thought about it and just felt, this isn't the way I want to do this. It was a big contract. It was a 6-picture thing, and I just like making movies one at a time.
You thought Chris Evans just walked away from Marvel, right? Well, think again. The Captain America star is finally speaking up, and he's revealing some shocking truths about Disney and his exit from the Avengers. We've all heard about actors being locked into long-term contracts, but Chris Evans' situation was next level. When he first agreed to take on the role of Captain America, it wasn't just a simple film contract. Oh no, it was a 9-picture deal. That's a huge commitment. Chris Evans was terrified. And who wouldn't be? It's not just about acting, it's about your entire life being planned out. That's pressure.
If at any moment you don't respond well, or if any moment you want to shift focus, you're afforded that opportunity. And the problem with a contract like that is if you have those hesitations or reinvented desires,
nice boots, Tinkerbell,
you can't pursue them because you got to go back into the suit.
Evans openly admitted that he was afraid of what he was getting into. He turned down the role multiple times before finally saying yes. Why? Because he didn't want to sign away his entire life. Disney didn't just want him to play Captain America. They wanted him to commit to years of his career, and they weren't going to let him back out easily. In the end, Evans felt cornered, like he had no choice.
Strange, the more I kind of resisted, the more they kind of pursued, and eventually they offered it. And it took a little bit of soul searching and talking to a few people, because I was a little tentative.
When Evans first became Captain America in 2011, it was clear the role wasn't just another job. It was a commitment to a bigger global machine. The fans, the films, the entire Marvel universe, it all depended on him. But the more he worked, the more it became obvious that Disney wasn't treating him like an actor anymore. They were treating him like a tool. They wanted results, lots of them.
Over 10 years of making these movies and being forced to do big stage sort of.
Chris had a hard time with this reality. The studios were making millions off of him, but when it came time to think about his future, they didn't care. It wasn't about respecting the actor behind the shield. It was about squeezing every dollar they could out of his character. And when Disney was done milking the Captain America franchise, they just let him go. No big farewell, no heartwarming send-off. They simply moved on. Let's talk about Steve Rogers for a second. The character Evans brought to life was more than just a superhero. He was the moral backbone of the Avengers. In the sea of anti-heroes and flawed characters, Steve stood tall, with old-school values and a pure sense of right and wrong.
Manufacturer, Tony, you chose to do that. If we sign this, we surrender our right to choose. What if this panel sends us somewhere we don't think we should go? What if there's somewhere we need to go and they don't let us? We may not be perfect, but the safest hands are still our own.
He was the heart and soul of the MCU. But after Avengers Endgame, Disney didn't seem to care about that legacy. Steve Rogers didn't die. He didn't even get a funeral, or a real goodbye. Instead, they just dropped his storyline without any closure.
That's why it's yours.
You want to tell me about her?
No.
Fans were left wondering, what happened to Steve? Why didn't we see him in the years after he passed the shield to Sam Wilson? Why is he just gone? Evans knows the answer. Disney didn't care anymore. They moved on to their new vision, which didn't include the wholesome, heroic version of Captain America. Why? Because they couldn't market that kind of hero in today's world. The squeaky clean, all-American hero wasn't cool enough anymore. So they erased him. Not because the character was done, but because they didn't need him anymore. For years, fans assumed Chris Evans just wanted to move on after his epic run as Captain America. But Evans revealed that wasn't the case at all. He didn't just leave the MCU, he was pushed out. And it wasn't for creative reasons. The studio had a new vision, and Evans wasn't a part of it. In a candid interview, Evans opened up about how Disney treated him. He wasn't fired, and he wasn't upset about the role. It was the way he was treated by the company that pushed him to walk away. Evans stood by his principles. He wasn't just in it for the fame or the money. He believed in what Captain America stood for. But Disney didn't. As they moved forward with the MCU, they discarded the ideals Evans represented.
But also give this guy enough challenges to keep him interesting enough to have audiences was affected. I mean, I knew it was coming, and I'm wiping tears away. So that's.
Let's be real. Disney isn't exactly a stranger to controversy. They're a massive, money-hungry machine that sometimes pushes their actors and creators to the side when they no longer fit the brand, just like they did with Jeremy Renner and many others.
Why? Did you think I'm only half the Jeremy because I got ran over? Maybe that's why you want to pay me half of what I made on the first season? And this is not Marvel, mind you. This is like this Disney, not even really Disney. It's just the penny pinchers, the accountants. I told him to go fly a kite.
Chris Evans wasn't just an actor. He was a symbol Disney wanted to bury. Why? Because they couldn't control him. When Evans defended Lightyear amid backlash over the LGBTQ+ kiss, he went against Disney's carefully controlled PR machine. He wasn't just defending the film, he was defending something bigger. And that terrified Disney. He was willing to speak his mind, even when the studio tried to avoid controversy. And that's when they started to distance themselves from him.
It's just 6 movies can be spread over 10 years, and you're making a decision for a decade, and it's not just a decision for you. If the lifestyle changes to a point where your anonymity is compromised, then it's really not your right to complain anymore. So if all of a sudden someone in your family ends up in a hospital and you're going in and out every day and someone's taking pictures of you and you complain, everyone's gonna say, too bad, you made this bed.
So why wasn't Steve Rogers included in the post-Endgame MCU? The simple truth is that Marvel didn't want to revisit that storyline. They didn't want to deal with the messiness of Steve's legacy. Instead, they pushed forward with a brand new Captain America, Sam Wilson. And while Sam Wilson is a fantastic character, there was no closure with Steve's journey. It felt rushed, incomplete, and it left fans with more questions than answers. Evans wasn't just Captain America on screen, he was Captain America in real life. He took the role seriously, and he believed in what it stood for. But Disney didn't see it that way. When they realized they couldn't control Evans' voice or his integrity, they pushed him aside. Chris Evans wasn't just heartbroken about leaving the MCU. He was heartbroken because he knew his fans would feel the loss. He was Captain America for a reason. He represented something larger than himself. But Disney couldn't see that. Instead, they erased his legacy and replaced it with new, more marketable faces.
You want me? Come and get me!
Evans never wanted to leave the franchise, but when the studio ignored the value he brought, he had no choice. His exit wasn't just about money or fame. It was about being respected for what he represented, both as Captain America and as an actor with integrity. And Disney failed him. They failed to recognize that sometimes a symbol can't just be replaced with the next trend.
Chris Evans isn't looking for pity. He's already moved on. He's making films that challenge him and stepping behind the camera to take control of his career.
Hey, buddy.
Hi, John.
Definitely didn't expect to run into you tonight.
I missed you.
Yeah, you don't even remember my face.
But the real question is, what happens to Marvel? Without Evans and the heart he brought to Captain America, the MCU feels a little empty. The fans still miss Steve Rogers. They still miss the values he represented. And Disney knows that, but they're too proud to admit they made a mistake. They can't just erase the past and pretend it didn't happen, because no matter how many new characters they throw at us, they can't replace the ones that truly mattered.